At 259.5 kilometres, the 101st edition of the men's Ronde Van Vlaanderen or Tour of Flanders features 18 of the famous Flemish bergs or hellingen, including the welcome return of the Muur van Geraardsbergen. That, however, comes much sooner in the race than it used to, and the last 75 kilometres remain the same as last year's event. The women's is up to 153 kilometres, so 12 more than last year, where we saw Lizzie Deignan take her first win at the event in a very close-fought battle with Emma Johansson. Both events take place on Sunday, the 2nd of April 2017, and coming up are 11 riders we think you should watch out for. And we've got to start with the winners from 2016. Peter Sagan and Lizzie Armitstead, who were both world champions at the time and therefore the perfect victors really for what was the 100th edition of the Tour of Flanders. This year Sagan returns in his rainbow bands with 3 wins already under his belt in 2017, including Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne and a close second place finish to Michał Kwiatkowski in the only other monument so far, Milan-San Remo. This year in 2017 he has so far done 18 road races, and of those, he's finished on the podium 11 times. So you'd expect him to at least podium at this year's Tour of Flanders. Deignan, on the other hand, has had a much quieter start to the year. She's only done 2 days of racing so far, in fact. Her best placing being a 3rd at Strade Bianche, an event she won the previous year. And in fact, she didn't race Gent-Wevelgem last Sunday due to illness. So a repeat win for her is very much in question. At the other end of the scale, we have Lotta Lepisto of Cervelo Biglia, who is on fire. She's just won Tour of Vlaanderen and Gent-Wevelgem in the space of a few days. And although she's only competed at the Tour of Flanders twice, her best placing being 28th, both she and her team are going to be full of confidence this time round. Of the monuments that John Degenkolb is capable of winning, the Tour of Flanders is the only one he is yet to win. In fact, his best placing was 7th a couple of years ago. Last year, the classics were a write-off for the German after a horrendous crash at training in Alpe in Spain, but he's back towards his best this year. He didn't quite have what it took to follow Peter Sagan's attack on the Poggio at Milan-San Remo, but arguably the short, sharp bergs of Flanders are better suited to him than the longer climbs down in Italy. And his new team, Trek Segafredo, are certainly not short of experience. They've won this race a couple of times before with Fabian Cancellara, so he's certainly got a strong team to back him up. Alexander Kristoff of Katusha has not finished outside the top 4 of this race for the past 4 years. In fact, he won it back in 2015. Now, like Degenkolb, he was unable to follow Peter Sagan's attack at Milan-San Remo. However, he did win the bunch sprint for 4th behind, and so he's obviously a man on decent form. An untimely puncture took him out of the equation at the recent Gent-Wevelgem, and although his team's not as strong as some out there, he'll still be confident of a top result here. It's hard to believe that BMC's Greg van Avermaet has yet to win one of cycling's 5 big monuments. He's won the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad twice, he's just won Gent-Wevelgem, he's the Olympic champion, and he was also the yellow jersey at the Tour de France last year after winning a stage. However, he is not going to be satisfied until he wins one of cycling's biggest one-day races. And he's best suited to the Tour of Flanders, so he's probably Belgium's best hope of ending a 4-year dry spell for the country at their home race. Tom Boonen has won this race on 3 occasions previously. However, he's not performed quite so well since the organisers changed the route back in 2013. His explosive power perhaps isn't quite what it used to be up the short, steep climbs, but what he does have going for him is the fact that Quick Step Floors, his team, are probably the strongest in the race with multiple cards to play. On the other hand though, he's probably going to be the most marked man out of the team, and you do get the impression he's focused slightly more on Paris-Roubaix the week after than he is on his home race. Sepp van Mark looks like he could be forever the nearly man of the cobbled classics. He's finished in the top 4 on 5 occasions at either the Tour of Flanders or Paris-Roubaix, but has yet to cross the line first. In 2016, he was the last man to be able to stick with Peter Sagan, but ultimately got dropped just on the Paterberg, and this year he's back with Cannondale Drapac. His best result being a 3rd place at the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. However, like Lizzie Deignan, he didn't start Gent-Wevelgem due to illness, so his form is in doubt. Winner here 2 years ago, Elisa Longo Borghini of Wiggle High 5 has been incredibly consistent over the years at the Tour of Flanders. In fact, 5th place last year was her worst result since 2012. She started off this season with a bang, taking the first round of the Women's World Tour, the Strada Bianca, in some style, and she's definitely one to watch this time around. Runner-up to Elisa Longo Borghini back in 2015 was teammate Jolien, and once again they will form a formidable duo in 2017. Dora started off the season fantastically well, taking a win in the Omloop van het Hageland, and she came agonisingly close to winning Ghent-Wevelgem too. And as the current Belgian national champion, she's going to be more motivated than ever to perform well on home roads. And we shall finish with yet another former winner of this race from back in 2014, Ellen van Dijk. This year she is racing for Team Sunweb, and she was pivotal in Corin Rivera's recent win at the Trofeo Alfredo Binda. The 30-year-old is as strong as an ox, so if she gets a small gap, the rest of the field may never see her again. So those are our 11 riders to watch in 2017. You can let us know who your favourites are and our glaring omissions as per usual in the comments section down below. And coming up now are 2 more videos that we think you might be interested in coming up to the Tour of Flanders. Before you go to them, make sure you subscribe by clicking on the globe, which you can see on the screen right now. And then for our full Tour of Flanders preview, you can click on the video just down there, or for some advice on how best to ride the cobblestone, you can click just down there.